Absolutely everyone wants to know how to access American credit. The only issue is that there's not a whole lot of information out there. In fact, from my own personal experience, I've seen a lot of misinformation out there. The so-called beginner-friendly YouTube tutorials to outdated forums that do not reflect today's updated information. So in today's video, I'm going to break down the 3 main components that you need to focus on in order to get your hands on multiple American credit cards and potentially get your hands on an Amex as a non-US citizen. After you finish watching this video, I'm going to leave a link in the description to my free community with over 700 plus different members that are learning about how to access US credit. And inside this free community, I share the exact blueprint on how you can access US credit as a non-US citizen. So without wasting any time, let's dive right in. So the first thing I tell every non-US citizen looking to get their foot in the door in the American financial system is for them to do this one thing, and that's getting your ITIN. Now, you might be wondering, what the heck is an ITIN? It's pretty simple actually. It stands for an individual taxpayer identification number. It's a 9-digit number issued by the IRS that functions exactly like a social security number. An SSN, basically the number that Americans have when they're doing credit applications. Think about it like this. You need to have some sort of identity in the bank's eyes before even thinking about US credit cards. Because if you don't, you'll be considered a ghost and the banks won't even take you seriously. And once you get your ITIN, you can increase the chances of getting access to US credit cards. Potentially even $250,000 in 0% interest credit. And I'm really not trying to sound like I'm hyping this up. It's pretty simple. It comes down to a step-by-step approach. In fact, I actually got my hands on my Amex at the age of 22, but I'll break down exactly how I did that in another video. I'll show you all the months of trial and error just to get this simple card. So just know I'm speaking from experience here. Now let's move on to the second component. Now here's where this gets interesting. Having an ITIN opens doors that most people wouldn't even think possible. For example, number 1, opening up US bank accounts. With an ITIN, you can open up both business and personal bank accounts without a hassle. Major American banks like Wells Fargo, Chase, Bank of America, and many others. However, without an ITIN, most banks will turn you away immediately. Door number 2, US credit cards. Now this is huge. With an ITIN, you can apply to American credit cards and start building a credit relationship inside of the strongest credit economy in the world, even if you've never lived in the United States. We're talking about premium credit cards like the American Express, the Capital One credit cards, the Chase Sapphire Reserve. Cards that come with incredible rewards and benefits. And door number 3, US loans and financing. So if in the future you need a business loan or you want to start purchasing property in America, an ITIN makes that possible. And door number 4, elite financial tools. Premium bank services, wealth management accounts, payment processing, things that companies need in order to grow become available to you once you have an ITIN. Alright, now that you know what an ITIN is, and you also know why it's so important to get, now comes to the $1 million question. How do you get an ITIN? Let me actually show you. This is my ITIN over here. I'm a Canadian citizen and I actually went through this process myself. So the answer comes down to 3 simple options. And I'm going to break down each individual application option so that you can make your own decision. So the first option when it comes to getting your ITIN is actually applying in person. So what you're going to need to do is go to an IRS office and actually tell them, hey, I'm looking to get an ITIN. What they're going to ask for is certain documents, including your passport, first name, last name, and other pieces of information. And you're actually going to be processing that inside of America. So the pros of this is that you get immediate attention to processing that ITIN, but the cons is that you need to do this whole deal of traveling to the United States, because I'm assuming you're a non-US citizen, and you've got to figure out exactly how you can get all of the documents because the IRS is not going to help you. You don't have someone by your side actually helping you through this process. The second way is actually mailing it yourself. So you're actually mailing the Texas location of the IRS with your passport, your different documents, your first name, last name, and whatnot. And essentially what you're doing is you're actually sending them your those documents, including your passport, which will stick with them for the next 6 to 12 weeks, or about 3 months time frame. And the cons of doing that, again, is that you're gonna not have access to your passport for pretty much 3 months. And so for most business owners, most non-US citizens, I wouldn't recommend that option, but some people would prefer to do it themselves. And then the last way is actually working with a certified acceptance agent. Essentially, a certified acceptance agent is certified by the IRS and is allowed to notarize documents when it comes to processing ITINs. So you can do this completely remotely. If you work with a certified acceptance agent, what they're gonna do is they're going to receive your documents, they'll notarize your documents, make sure that your documents are written in place in order to make sure that you get approved from the IRS. Because by the way, if you do this yourself, sometimes you actually get declined for an ITIN. And so if you work with someone, a certified acceptance agent, they'll make sure that you actually get approved. And essentially what that CAA is going to do is that he is going to mail those documents to the IRS. So you pretty much, all you've got to do is send that information to them, and essentially they're going to process it on your behalf. And actually that's exactly how I got my ITIN myself. Now, in fact, after years of experience and hundreds of different processed ITINs, UpCredit and my team, we actually specialize in this. We help non-US business owners get their ITIN in less than 12 weeks. It's all done for you, and you don't need to go through some complicated process with a bunch of different paperwork. So if you're interested and you want to learn more, click the link below and you can find out how you can potentially get an ITIN in less than 12 weeks. Now, here's the truth about ITINs that nobody talks about. Getting one isn't just about taxes. An ITIN could be your gateway into leveraging the American credit system and building real wealth. Without it, you'll be locked out of opportunities that can not only transform your own business, but also your life. That's why with an ITIN, you can gain financial tools that most dream to have. That's why I believe that every day that you don't have an ITIN is another day you're missing on building American credit, accessing 0% interest credit lines, payment processors, American real estate, and much more. The earlier you get started, the sooner you'll be able to build foundational wealth for long-term success in the US system. And there you have it, the 3 simple components of getting your foot in the door in the American financial system. Remember, an ITIN isn't just a number. It's your ticket to use leverage and build true financial freedom in the world's largest economy. The question isn't whether you need an ITIN, but how much longer will you need to wait to get one? That's why if you want to learn how you can access the American credit system, whether you are a non-US citizen or a non-US resident, I'll leave a link in the description to our free community where it talks a bit more in depth when it comes to accessing the American credit system and these credit cards. If this video helps you understand the steps you need to take to access American credit, hit the like button and subscribe for more content about accessing American financial services and US credit as a non-US citizen. I hope this has been helpful to you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.